My name's Zach Cobb. Bruce Cobb is my father. He wishes he could be here today, but he's struggling with, he's a little under the weather. But he sends his gratitude for all the thoughts and prayers that have been sent his way. And he wishes he could be here with everybody, especially our family. I wrote some things down, and I'm going to try to stick to them, but I may drift a little bit. Because hearing Bud and Gary and Steve talk about my uncle made me think about a lot of different things and made me kind of rethink some of the things I was saying. But our family wants to thank each of you that have expressed condolences and shared all the wonderful stories about my Uncle Paul. It's through your thoughts and prayers that our family's been able to find strength, and I think now it's time to begin to turn this tragedy into a celebration of an amazing human being that lived an extraordinary life. This is pretty tough because I'm not much of a public speaker. But when I was asked to share some of my thoughts and memories of my Uncle Paul, it was something I truly wanted to find the strength to do for our family. But especially for Marty, for Andra, for Paula, David, and my Babu. Paul was a very big man. Some of you know he had bone-crushing strength when he shook your hand. Paul represented everything that is good and right in America. As you've heard here today, he was a soldier, and he served with distinction and valor in Vietnam, where he lost a big chunk of his lower leg. I'm not sure if you all know this, but Paul was also a heck of an athlete. Even with his war injuries and half a calf muscle, Paul was nearly impossible to beat on the racquetball court. I used to go to San Jacinto and play with the police department and Paul, and I had some great memories there. And I'm a lefty, so he would always serve to my strong hand, so I would surprise him the first, I'd get a couple of points on him that way, but then he would adjust, and then there was no chance for me. I don't think I ever beat him, actually. I think we had a couple close games. But I know that Brian, you've played him as well, and he was a tough competitor. Tough competitor in life, tough competitor in everything that he did. He was also an excellent water skier. He also liked to snow ski. And Brian also told me he skied with him, and he and Paul liked to go really fast. Smooth and groomed. That's what they liked. Right. His soft-spoken, plain way of communicating was easy on the ears. Paul said things like, "Well, I mean to tell you," and I enjoyed the heck out of that. To put it plainly, Paul David was not only my uncle, he was the best man I've ever known. I've heard that a few times here today, and I think a lot of you feel the same way. I know that's a strong statement, but it's what I truly feel in my heart. And I know many of you feel that too. Paul stood tall. He had so much personal integrity and love for his family and friends. He was born to be a leader. Paul was the man I called when I needed to hear the truth in the way only Uncle Paul could deliver it. At times, it was not what I wanted to hear, but I can guarantee it was what I needed to hear. I often called on Paul when life threw me a curveball and I needed some advice or some help, as I'm sure many of you did that are in here. He had a way about him. One fond memory I have of my Uncle Paul was around the time he became chief of police in Pasadena. We as a family were obviously very proud of him. He worked hard for his family and his fellow officers. I will admit here today that my internal thoughts at the time he became police chief were, "Man, I have a free pass in Pasadena. I'm never going to get another speeding ticket, U-turns at will, it doesn't matter. I'm a free man, It was party time, Pasadena. And then it happened. I got pulled over. I think he's here. He's a really good-looking officer in here somewhere. I can't find him right now. But, I got pulled over. And within seconds, I had explained that Chief Cobb was my uncle. The officer expressed his respect for Chief Cobb and went back to his patrol car. I expected at the time this was just a quick call to Paul, and the officer would return and the ticket would be cleared up like it would never happened. I was already thinking about how I was going to thank Uncle Paul for the help. Until the officer returned to my vehicle, issued me a speeding ticket, expressed to me what a great Chief Paul was, told me to have a great day and to drive safe. I have to admit, I was perplexed by the whole situation. How was it possible that I received this ticket? Didn't this officer understand who I was? I look back on it now and it seems silly. I was dumbfounded by this encounter, and I called Paul and I asked him why the officer gave me a ticket. Paul simply said, "Because you were speeding." There were no free rides with Paul, but Paul would never leave your side. When you needed him, he was a man with compassion, but he always held me accountable in the way only Uncle Paul could, and I love him for it today. He was a high road kind of guy. Who inspired my life in so many ways with unmeasurable integrity. He inspired me as a leader. He inspired me as a husband to Martha, as a father to Andra, Paula, and David. Paul was given to us to fly, and he soared. Keep soaring, Uncle Paul. We all love you, and we're going to miss you tremendously.